Okay, guys. So I'm getting a bunch of higher quality videos done, but in the meantime, just wanted to give you a really quick and just like authentic look at our tool, our approach to get your feedback on this. So I'm just gonna quickly record maybe 10-minute video trying to really explain what we're building and how we're building it. At its core, our belief is that basically your code base is a resource for a lot more than just your engineering team to write code. And we have two inaugural products that we've released and two more right behind it. And basically, what we're trying to do is marry all of the benefits of having a web app, but then also having all the benefits of doing all your CRUD operations within Cursor and having direct access to your code as a resource for producing stuff. And so I'm going to give you two kind of demos exactly and where and how we're doing that tonight. So basically, what we have is something that we're calling the continuous suite. Within that is Conti test, Conti help, Conti plan, and Conti docs. And what we're going to talk about tonight is basically the test planning tool that we have and the help docs tool that we have. At its core, what we have is basically the ability to use access to a code base, which we'll talk about, to basically produce markdown files and a CLI tool to push those markdown files up into a web app. So ultimately, you get all of your ability to both have all your test plans in the web, as well as all of your ability to have all your help docs. So what I can do here is just go into our help docs, and you can see we have all of our help docs and produced and so forth, right? And so really the core thesis is how do you take tasks that are multiple hours of typing inputs and drive them down into 10, 15 minutes of review. Okay, so let's get into it. Set the stage. We have a code base here. This code base is actually Conti Test's code base. Basically, it has your front end, it has your back end, and so forth. What's really important about this, though, is this completely works if you have multiple repos. It's not only just for mono repos. The key element about this entire concept is a feature that's been around actually for a while in VS Code, which is basically the concept of add folder to workspace. So why is that critical to all of this? Why that is critical is because AI now has the ability to interact with multiple repos at once, depending on the context. What does that mean for us? What that means for us is we can put all of our test files or all of our help docs or all of our documentation in a separate repo than our actual code base, but we can use the context of the code base in order to help do that. So I want to give you a quick demo because you're probably like, it doesn't really make sense. QA engineers told, okay, you need to test all of the billing features. You need to first start off by writing test plans, right? So let's look at our existing test plans. There's nothing related to billing. We can go up here. And actually, ironically, probably need to clean this out because I just deleted them all. So here, let's just clean all this out right now. And I could show you how quick and simple that is. And like I said, this is a live on the fly demo. I'm going to quickly just jump ahead. But this is what we're doing is we're basically using an NPM package between the two to authenticate. So what we'll do is we'll simply log in and then we will again push. And what we're doing is we're basically updating the web app to be in line with what our local is, which does not have the Stripe test, and it's done, right? And you can see super, super fast. We just updated the web app. Complete side note, because I know it's going to come up. The NPM package never touches your code base, so it's completely secure. There is absolutely no risk. The NPM package simply sits in a separate folder. The only thing that touches your code base is Cursor or Copilot or whatever IDE basically you are using. So one of the really cool things about this implementation is there's almost zero security concerns. Okay, so you're a QA engineer, you're a help docs person, you're being told, okay, we need to do our Stripe test plan or Stripe help docs. So let's start off by doing that. So we're going to say, go look for the Stripe/billing implementation and come back to me with a summary, no coding. So what we're doing is we're going to tell Cursor, just to get some context first, hey, go find the billing and Stripe implementation, teach yourself about it. And I always start off by doing this. I'm a huge believer that the code base with Cursor, with these tools, is now an information source for us. As QA engineers, it can tell us where API endpoints are. It can tell us what are required fields. It can do so much of this other stuff. What's really fascinating about this, because this is the first area of pushback I get, is a lot of QA engineers will say, basically, what about if there's bugs? Won't it just come back with the bugs? And to me, A, I don't think it does that particularly badly. Like it's pretty good at that. On the other hand, like this is not like AI magic that we're trying to sell here. All we're trying to sell is basically AI is a keyboard that's faster and more helpful. So this is all human driven. This is all humans trying to say, okay, I'm going to look through this. I'm going to try to understand. It's a lot, but I'm going to get it. So I'm going to say, give me the top end-to-end test cases I need for my manual team. No coding, just write them out here. And what I'm saying about it is like, you still should use your brain. Don't just tell it, write the test cases. There will obviously be lazy people in the world who might just use this to write the test cases, not review, stuff like that. But at the same point, like, if we're motivated to do this great, what we're going to say is, okay, then test case, critical path, navigate to the test runs, create test runs, set. Cool. This is a really good example. So it's actually doing this badly because what we were wanting to do is Stripe and billing. And so what it's come up with is definitely not Stripe and billing. And so what we have here is we basically need to go back to our prompt where we say, need to say, focus only on Stripe and billing. And so we've updated it. Good example, right? Of AI is not perfect. It's not going to do everything that you always need to want it to do. It can't find them, which is perfect because I deleted them. Great. Now it's coming up with test cases, right? So happy path subscription, create a new workspace, select the plan. Yeah, great test case. Trial expiration access blocking, great test case. Stripe checkout, great test case. Cool, right? I would not just be like scan push, let's be done. Like just so we're on the same page, I'm shortening this in order to basically just not make this video a half an hour, but look through the test cases, understand the test cases, decide whether they're good or not. What it's doing though is it's writing out all these test cases, which is super, super useful. What I'm going to do next though is the actual sort of beauty of this entire situation, the beauty of this whole app. What we're going to do is we're going to actually have it produce the test cases in the markdown format that is designed for our COI system. And all we do here is we give you cursor rules and we basically say, and what we'll do is we'll say new folder, and well, you can see strips, billing, or we'll just say billing, I guess. That's right. Billing, we're going to pull in, add new test case. And what it's going to do is it's going to take our cursor rules and our formatting that we want it to do, and it's going to write in the test cases in the files. Now, a couple things about this. The only thing we care about is basically certain aspects in the markdown files being there. The folder structure you want, the scope, the number of test cases you want in each. None of that is constrained. So you have complete freedom to basically organize your test suite however you want to see fit. Additionally, and here's some of the other things to talk about briefly while we're waiting on this. One of the really cool things about this is basically your test repository, your help docs repository essentially becomes a GitHub project, right? You have Git, you have version control. What you will do when you update this is you'll then commit it to your main branch, or maybe your different QA people have different branches, right? And then basically what you can do is now have multiple people committing to basically your test case repository, right? Just like devs. Now, this is going to be different for QA engineers. This is going to be different for health engineers. And so my ask is that you give it a chance to start to rethink about these processes and how it goes. So while it's waiting and it's going to be producing our test cases, and you can see it's already produced it, what we're going to do is start to talk about how do we get this up in the web and why do we want it in the web? The web still is valuable in many ways, right? The web has a much easier ability to go through test cases, to review test cases, to run test cases. Managers don't want to have to get into the ID, reporting, history, stuff like that. So the web is super valuable still. And so what we're going to do is we're going to simply, like I showed you, make sure that we have a CLI token. We will then authenticate. You can see it's continuing to write our test cases. And then we're going to simply prep to do our Conti test scan and push. And as soon as it's done, we're going to scan and push. And now we're going to have roughly, let's say, 40 or 50 manual test cases that'll be in our web app. Are they perfect? No. Will you absolutely have to go and refine them? Yes. But here's the key thing is it's taking just all of the time and energy it would have taken to write those, the 4 or 5 hours that it takes to literally write out manual test cases, and it's going to do it in what, 3 minutes? You're going to spend 30 minutes, 45 minutes reviewing it. And yes, that feels tedious. It feels different, but you're still coming out ahead a positive 3 hours. And this applies in so many ways, right? Let's imagine there's a commit and or tickets, right? And you have to go and update a manual regression suite or update test cases. We already have people that are saying, wait a second, let's just pull the commit and have Cursor look at the commit, which it can do, and look at the code in the commit, and then compare that against all of our manual test plans and decide what needs to be added or what doesn't. And it works great. It's awesome. And it's going so, so well in that sense already. And it's not just writing test cases, it's maintaining test cases. It's basically taking dev tickets and saying, okay, hey, here's a dev ticket. What existing manual test cases are going to be out of date, need to be deleted. It's about just making you faster and giving you the tools to be faster. It's not about replacing the human in any way. So what we're going to do is we're going to wait for this to be done. And you can already start to see these are super valuable test cases, right? Smoke tests for Stripe checkout flow, the customer portal and all the Stripe customer portal tests, payment failure tests, which are all great, trial expiration and blocking tests. These are all great. Like, for better or worse, and I think this is honestly part of it. Like, unfortunately, AI is very good at coming up with test cases at this point. Yes, it needs coaching, and yes, for industry specific things, it might have a little bit more of a challenge, but with the proper prompting, it can be super, super useful. Okay, so it's done, right? It's created them. So we're going to want to push them up in the web so we can review them. Scan push. It's now pushed. And just like that, if we go to our test plans and we search for Stripe, all of those are now on the web. And now we can sit down and we can say, okay, does this test case make sense? Subscription status trialing, have a new workspace with active trial, navigate to billing, verify subscription status of trialing. Yeah, makes total sense. We could do test runs. So let's imagine you're testing a ticket and you guys want the history of your test run. Oops, I need to choose the one first. Sorry. Let's go and find it right there, right there. Cool. Start a little too fast. And now we have our test run, right? We can start the test. We can say stuff pass, fail. Some people use this, some people don't use this. Totally all right to not use it. So that is Conti test, right? QA folks, this is in your wheelhouse. That makes total sense. I want to take 2 seconds to talk about Conti help, right? Because how many times are help docs out of date, right? So we have these billing test cases, these billing help docs. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that we have the most recent ones ends. I just generate the session token, be it here, authenticate. Going to do our run, like this. Great. And we should go. And now we're going to have it, right? So we just added a new feature, right? Billing, let's say making it up. Billing's our new feature, right? And it's all gone. So what do we need to do? We need to write help docs for billing. So what does that mean? Traditionally, that is a headache to do, right? Because you're going to produce all of this stuff, right? You're going to produce all of this information. It's no longer a headache. So what we're going to do is rather than having our test plans in our workspace, we're going to simply close out our workspace. Or what we can do is we can add a new folder to our workspace if we want. We can just do that. It's a lot of new folders to the workspace. We will do our help docs instead of our test plans. So help docs. We're going to do our Conti test help docs. Pull it in. Great. Okay. So we're now going to say as simple as, great. Now add all the help docs for billing. And what it's going to do, and this is so cool and so helpful because I've spent so much time trying to write help docs and keep things up to speed and do this, is it's going to take all of the knowledge that we just spent basically over the last 10 minutes putting together in this thread. And rather than having to repeat any of it, it's going to just write all of our markdown files for these same flows that we just wrote test cases for. Now, once again, would I encourage that you just like do this and just go at this pace? Absolutely, probably not. Like you need to reviewing things, signing off on things, just like you would in your day job. But on the other hand, is it super, super cool that it's about to produce something that's 90% of the way there, like in genuinely 5 minutes? Yes, unbelievably cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to wait for these to be done. Now, what I want to show you while we're waiting is a really nifty little feature that we came up with and solution that we came up. Because everything is managed locally in Markdown files, one of the headaches that you might think is, wait a second, how are images done? Like how, okay, Markdown files are only so useful, right? There's a lot here, there's no images. So our solution for images is really cool. Our solution for images is to think about basically that you still want images. So let's take an image, right? And we'll go like this and we'll drag the image in. Oops, wrong one, sorry. I missed. I'll just drag the image from, I guess, desktop uh, image, just grabbed an image. And so what you can do is you can use what's called an anchor phrase. And what that means is basically wherever you want an image to appear in the help doc, you basically put in the anchor phrase. So what this means is that as you are updating your markdown files and changing your markdown files, that doesn't affect your images because your images just insert right after your anchor phrase. If your phrase ever changes, rather than saying match, it just says, hey, this is no longer matched. You just update the anchor phrase. So I think we've done a really great job of solving these two things, which is, okay, now you can do a lot of editing. You can change stuff really quick. And even if the content is changing or moving around or stuff like that, as long as the anchor phrase is still there, the image knows exactly where it wants to go. If the anchor phrase ever changes, the image just shows as unmatched and it's no longer going to be there. All right, so let's go back. It's still writing our health docs. And as we're waiting, like just as a reminder, this used to have to be written by hand, right? Or was relying on bad docs. And what's super, super cool about this is, and this is, I think, something that a lot of QA people forget, or other things like people forget, is like, you don't need to go into an application to know what's in the application. You can just look at the code. The difference is that you or I don't necessarily look at a code base and see a story. AI looks at a code base and sees a story. It sees an app. It sees workflows. It sees basically how it was built, right? And so think about this process, right? Someone is opening the app, they're documenting it, or they're opening tickets, they're documenting it, then they're trying to write it all out, right? You don't need to do that anymore. And just to take a second to talk about what's behind this in the next two apps that we're going to release, you basically have, in this case, test planning done, released. Obviously, ton of ways that we're going to improve it. Help websites done, released. But like Confluence and sort of documentation, that like, why is that not a continuous process? Why, whenever there's a developer making a change, why are they not continuously able to just quickly update their documentation and then have the web portal still where people can go and share it and engage with it, right? So we're going to be releasing that in the next week or two, hopefully. And then the last one, and this is the biggest stretch, but like, how often have you dealt with a bad development ticket that was poorly written, that didn't have detail, that was missing stuff? Turns out Cursor is very good if you say, hey, I've got this feature that we're adding. I'm going to list out all my acceptance criteria. Help me design a really fantastic dev ticket for my team that references different files, references all of the different architecture things that might need to be considered. And so you as a project manager can do such a service for your QA team, for your or your scrum master, whoever's writing your tickets, for your devs, in using Cursor to draft your dev tickets. And then what we provide you is a web app for basically managing them. And I think long term that probably has to be integrated into Jira and Azure and some of these other tools. But like ultimately something that is probably once again released in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Goal number one is to get people just using this methodology, using this kind of style of workflow and trying to prove that it works. And then from there, going from, all right, so I'm going to pause for a second while I wait for all of this to wrap up. Cool. Okay. So it's written 7 help docs, right? And I would remind you, these docs did not exist 5 minutes ago. And all we need to do to get them into the web and in front of people for help and using it is simply to do Conti scan help push. It has pushed them up. And guess what? They're all here and they're fantastic help docs, right? So create your workspace, starting your trial, select the plan, start trial. What's included in your trial? Full feature access. And 98% of this is accurate, which is what's really stunning. I want to add images, right? So I'm going to go to the Conti help. Actually, this is Conti test. I'll just grab an image of anything in here. I guess just of this. So I want to add images to my help docs, which is honestly the piece that like is the most slow. Like you really don't need images for this to be helpful. And for the record, by the way, you have the ability to just have it auto publish if you want. So if we go and we look at our help website, which is just Conti test. So we're going to do Conti help slash Conti test. I would remind you emphatically that 5 minutes ago, I did not have help docs for my customers on how to deal with addressing subscriptions. I now have a fantastic resource guide for how they can interact with subscriptions. Does it need to be improved? Yes, it absolutely needs to be improved. Does it need images? Yes, but you can add images over time and you can start to add this stuff without your help docs just being this out of date nightmare that they so often are, right? And I showed you how easy it is to add images, right? So what we can do, we'll go back into the app. Oops. Right. So adding images is as simple as you grab the image that you want, you upload it. We just did this, so we have our test runs, right? And then we say, okay, where is test runs addressed? I guess we try to make it real. So we'll go test runs, right? Creating a test run. What's a test run? Creating a test run. Go to this. Create the test run button. Let's put it right after this. Okay, so our anchor phrase. So we're going to go in. We're going to upload our image. We're going to put our anchor phrase in. Didn't find it. Why did not find it quick? Anchor phrase not found in the doc. Let's try again. It's always fun. Like it goes back to I don't claim to be perfect. I don't claim. So let's try a different anchor phrase and see. And match that one. Don't know why it necessarily match that one versus the other one. We will address it. But now we have our images in that, right? And so what you can do is you can just rip through 10 images, 10 screenshots, add them right here. And now if we go and we look at creating a test run on the front end, that has images. Okay, I want to wrap it up. I just wanted to give you guys a quick raw unfiltered view of what we're building. I think that this truly has the ability to, God, revolutionize is such a horrible word, impact QA engineers' ability to just not do tedious stuff, impact customer service, whoever is being responsible for doing help docs, ability to not do it. Devs who hate write documentation or hate writing documentation, or they hate write documentation, their ability to do it. And then ultimately, it goes so much farther, right? A Scrum Master's ability to write real helpful tickets that aren't just add a submit button, right? I'm going to link the website. Please check it out. More than anything, I just want feedback. I just want to know, are we crazy? Or is this use so far everyone we show, it's like mind boggling. I think there's a lot of excitement around it, but at the same point, just really want your feedback on it. So appreciate your time. Appreciate you taking a look and please reach out and let's chat more.